Moto Guzzi set out to prove that they could build a motorcycle that had more than just character. They wanted to show the world that they could make a bike that was refined, sophisticated, still had the beautiful Italian lines, yet met all the modern emission standards and would compete with the newest and most modern bikes from all the Japanese and other European manufacturers. Now, what they created, it may give up a couple horsepower to the competition, but they made the absolute best engine that Moto Guzzi has ever made, and they also created one of the absolute best sport tours on the market today. Now, the question I want to answer today on the, you see us here, we're at the top of the tail of the dragon. This is called the overlook. This is kind of the unofficial end of the tail of the dragon. What I want to answer today on the tail of the dragon is, with all this new technology and refinement and everything else, did they take away the essence of what makes a Moto Guzzi a Moto Guzzi? Or is this still one of the best bikes on the market today? Hey guys, it's Alan, the Fireman 1028, and today I am with this beautiful 2025 Moto Guzzi V100 Mandello S, and we're gonna ride it on the tail of the dragon. All right, guys, so before we get started here, I want to make sure I give a shout out to T over at T Zero Cycles in Charlotte, North Carolina on Freedom Drive. T absolutely made this possible. He has given me full access to his inventory of Moto Guzzis and Aprilias and Vespas and all his used bikes and everything. And he said, hey, I want you to review this bike, but I want you to be honest with me and I want you to take it. I'm not going to hold you back. I'm not going to tell you where to go. I'm not going to tell you how to ride it. I'm not going to tell you what to say. Go give me an honest review of this motorcycle and tell me what you think. So when I saw how beautiful this bike was here, I was like, there's only one place I know that I could take this bike to give it true justice, and that's the tail of the dragon, Highway 129, Deals Gap. And so that's what we're going to do today, is we're going to ride it and we're going to see, is this still a true Moto Guzzi or has it lost something with all the technology? So let's stop talking about it. Let's go ride. All right, guys, so let's set off. Again, we're at the overlook at the famous Deals Gap, Highway 129, aka Tail of the Dragon. We're going to ride down to the Deals Gap Motorcycle Resort. A couple reasons. One, I need to get fuel. I hope I got enough fuel to make it down there. I didn't even realize that we were running on the reserve. So if we run out of fuel, it's going to make it even more interesting. So, like I said, let's get started on our test ride. And like I said, does all this new technology on this bike, does this take away from what makes a Moto Guzzi a Moto Guzzi? So let's put on our gloves, let's go for a ride. All right, so we're gonna run it in rain mode. It is a windy and blustery morning. It says 54 degrees. I don't believe that for a second. So let's take off. And like I said, we're going to try to answer the question, does all this technology take away from what makes a Moto Guzzi a Moto Guzzi? And does this technology give us enough gas to make it down to the Deals Gap Resort to get some fuel? All right, guys, so let's talk about the ergonomics of this bike. So for a sport tourer, I think this thing has about as perfect of aerodynamics that you can get on a bike. Let's put our windshield up a little bit. The road's still very wet, and actually they're calling for a lot more rain, so we're just trying to get some filming in before we got to head back home. So the ergonomics of this bike is absolutely perfect as far as a sports tour. Almost like a GT, where it's almost more like a Grand Tour or something like that. Whereas, and what I mean by that is it's a slightly forward position, but not in an aggressive way. Let's get these brakes warmed up. the seat is very comfortable and sculpted, and you're really kind of locked into a position, and you can almost feel the backrest kind of resting right up against your coccyx, and it's a very, again, not aggressive, but a I don't know, maybe a committed seating position. Let's take this turn here. Again, the road's wet and the leaves are down, so we're not going to be pushing this thing hard today. But you know, if you got a chance to take a bike like this on one of the most famous roads in the world, you gotta do it. All right, so like I said, it's you know, the bars. I love the bars. You know, usually bikes like this, you've got a clip-on of some sort, whereas this bike here, it's got a nice wide handlebar, and I love that because you can really kind of push into it and get that counter steer going, and I absolutely love that about this bike. So the windshield all the way up, actually, I don't like the position all the way up. Just slightly down actually is actually a better position for me. The eagle eye viewers may realize that we have it in rain mode because we have our active aerodynamics in the deployed position, which is pretty dadgum cool. Again, first production motorcycle in the world with active aerodynamics. Now, does it make a huge difference? No, not really, and it's not really designed to. I mean, they even Moto Guzzi says at at highway speeds it reduces wind back pressure by like 22%. So I mean, is it noticeable at highway speeds? Yeah, probably. Would it help if you're in a driving rain to keep it off of it? Yeah, probably. But as far as everyday like around town riding, no, you won't notice the difference there. But it's still something that's pretty daggum cool. And kind of some bragging rights to say that, hey, I got active aerodynamics. What you got? All right, so let's talk about the powertrain. So this motor is very, very important to Moto Guzzi. So this motor is a lot of first for Moto Guzzi. This powertrain is. So this is the first liquid-cooled engine that Moto Guzzi has ever made. Everything up to this point has been air-cooled, and water cooling allows them to do a couple things. One, it allows them to make the engine smaller and more compact. You don't need all of the material in the engine like what you do for an air-cooled engine. So like I said, so liquid cooling really allows them to push the horsepower by increasing compression, more heat, because liquid cooling allows them to evacuate the heat. But mainly for emissions. This is this engine here, this 1042cc longitudinally mounted liquid cooled V-twin. This is going to be a standard moving forward for Moto Guzzi, in my opinion. Because like I said, that's really going to allow them to push the horsepower, to push the emissions over the next coming years, and to be able to compete with some of the other Italian companies as well as the Japanese manufacturers as well. So the engine makes 115 horsepower, which is kind of right in the sweet spot for what an engine of this size should make. Now, the cool thing about it is that this engine is about 4 inches smaller than what their 853cc V-twin is. And again, like I said, you don't need to have all that additional material on the liquid-cooled engine so that the engine can be a lot smaller. Now, what that's done is that's made the most compact engine that Moto Guzzi has made in a V-twin configuration, and what that's allowed them to do is to stretch the swing arm longer than what they typically would have, and that's allowed the shaft jack, which is typical on a drive shaft configuration, to be lessened significantly. So a longer drive shaft, a lower angle of the pinion, and has really reduced the shaft jack of this engine. And if you've ever ridden a BMW, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You know, when you get on the throttle, you can almost feel it kind of pulling the bike, or kind of almost like picking up the rear of the bike. That's called shaft jack. So when you're hitting that, it's like pulling up that rear. And you know, again, it's just one of those things where a shaft drive, you know, there's a lot of benefits to a shaft drive bike, but there's some negatives, and that's definitely one of them there. So like I said, longer swing arm, lower pinion angle has allowed them to reduce the shaft jack. Let's talk about suspension. The suspension of this bike. Now, the S model is there's a couple very, very significant differences from the standard V100 Mandello to the S model. Most importantly, being right here in front of me. You can't really see it, but the S model comes with electronically controlled Öhlins suspension. And guys, that is huge. Öhlins makes incredible stuff, but their electronically controlled stuff is top notch. And now the price difference is not that huge. I mean, MSRP on an S model was like $17,490, I think. Moto Guzzi always does these kind of odd numbers with their pricing. But I mean, like I said, if you couldn't even buy the suspension and add this to this motorcycle, so because it's all tied into the IMU, the 6-axis IMU is tied into the computer and everything else. So you couldn't even add this electronic suspension to a standard model if you wanted to. So that by itself makes it worth it. The S model also comes with a quick shifter up and down. Now, this day and age, and for what you're going to pay for a standard model, I think a quick shifter should be an absolute standard feature. I mean, you're getting those on, you know, $5,000 dual sports now. So, you know, in my opinion, a $17,000 or even $15,000 standard model should come with a quick shifter. But that, you know, that's neither here nor there. The S also comes with heated grips, and it also comes with a tire pressure monitoring system, which I think is a really cool thing to have. I've had tire pressure monitors on you know, plenty of motorcycles. I had a Yamaha FJR 1300. That was my iron butt bike, and I had a tire pressure monitoring system from Garmin, which was tied into my, you know, external GPS. And you know, it was kind of cool, but it was kind of clunky. This one's got it built in from the factory, which I think is really cool. So again, going back to the suspension, I know we're talking about that. The electronic suspension is really absolute top notch, and it's fully adjustable. I mean, you can the different rider modes will adjust the stiffness of the suspension. I'm not sure if you can adjust individual parameters. It is very windy today because, like I said, there's a front moving in, but I got a beautiful morning to ride, and gosh, I had to absolutely take advantage of it. I'm not sure if you can adjust, like the rear preload to adjust for a passenger. You know, I've had some BMWs in the past with electronic suspension where you could individually adjust the preload to accommodate a passenger, or to accommodate luggage, or to accommodate a passenger with luggage. Let's talk about the brakes. This bike comes with you know, radially mounted Brembo brakes with a Brembo master cylinder here. You see that right up front here. The brakes are very good. They're very confidence inspiring. What was that? We got a limb in the road there. Excuse me, limb. They're very confidence inspiring. They are a little grabby. I was riding with my wife yesterday, and you know, I just kind of grabbed them, and I guess I got a little bit too much brake, and it kind of shifted both of us forward. And so I mean, the Brembos, ooh, big old stick in the road. Hey. So the Brembos are a little grabby. But again, it's one of those. I like a good initial grab of a brake, and once you kind of get used to it and you kind of get the feel of it, it's not a bad thing. But again, like I said, if you're coming off something with a softer brake, that initial grab can be a little grabby. So you know, there's that. Let's talk about the handling while we're doing this right here. And again, like I said, I'm not pushing hard. This is not my bike. Oh, there's limbs all over the road. Look at this. I'm not pushing the bike hard, and there's pine needles and leaves and everything else, and the road's still wet from the rain yesterday. But this bike, the handling of this bike is an absolute dream. It's an absolute dream. This is probably, if I had to say, this is probably one of the best handling sports touring bikes on the market. The Öhlins suspension is very you know, forgiving, and it's very predictable as far as what it's doing. Again, like I said, we're on a wet road with leaves, so it's not. This is not probably the best time to talk about, and cold tires on a cold road. So, you know, I've done plenty of track days. I know exactly what happens when you do that. So we're not going to push this thing at all. So electronics. Let's talk about the electronics of the bike. You know, and I showed you earlier the dash and everything. So, you know, this thing has the kind of the corporate, you know, the corporate TFT screen, the 5-inch TFT screen that Aprilia uses, and which makes a lot of sense. I mean, because like I said, because Moto Guzzi is part of the Aprilia family, or the Piaggio family, and with kind of Aprilia kind of being the top dog of that. So, a lot of the technology that Aprilia has been passed down to Moto Guzzi, and that's not a bad thing. Don't look at those as hand-me-downs. Look at those as taking some really high quality components and sharing them inside the corporate family. If you notice, all the switch gear, again, it's all same part of the Piaggio and Aprilia family, and it's really good stuff. Our riding modes, we have 4 riding modes. We have rain, we have tour, we have sport, and we have road. Now, if you notice, our active aerodynamics are out now, and that's in rain mode, they automatically deploy. In touring mode, they're set for, I think it's like 55 miles an hour. They're set for it, but you can individually adjust those parameters to adjust when your winglets come out. And again, it's designed to reduce the air pressure coming onto the rider. And again, I think probably at higher speeds, you know, highway speeds, really highway speeds, it probably really shines there, but at these low speeds, you really can't feel it. This is also the first Moto Guzzi with a 6-axis IMU. Now, they have it on the V85 TT now, but this was the first Moto Guzzi model that came with a 6-axis IMU. And a 6-axis IMU, what that means is that, so there's, you know, obviously there's 6 axes of measurement. So you have your x-axis, your y-axis, and you have 2 others. What that does is that gives the motorcycle spatial awareness to know where it is at in relation to the ground. So it knows that I'm going 35 miles an hour. It knows that I'm turning left at a 5-degree angle. It knows what the rear wheel's doing. It has all this information, and what that allows it to do is that allows it to make smarter computations with the cornering ABS. There's another stick in the road. It allows it to make you know, it allows it for a lot smarter of a motorcycle. Okay. This also comes with cruise control. Again, the S model also comes with the heated grips, and it also, which I think are turned off. Actually, I need to check my heated grips, because I definitely could use them today. Stick in the road, another stick in the road. Let's go heated grips. Heated grips. Yeah, let's turn those some biscuits back on. It's cold this morning. So, again, heated grips, cruise control, quick shifter, 6-axis IMU, multiple rider modes. I mean, this bike, again, like I said, this is the technology part. This is the part where Moto Guzzi said, you know what, it's cool to have character, but we also need a motorcycle that can compete in 2025 or 2023 when this was developed, in 24 and 25, all the way, you know, 2030, with the modern motorcycles that you know, the other Italian manufacturers or European manufacturers are putting out, you know, products from Ducati and from BMW and from Triumph. And then you look at the Japanese manufacturers, you know, from Honda and Suzuki and Kawasaki and Yamaha, and now you got to consider some of the Chinese manufacturers too. And so Moto Guzzi knew that they couldn't just rely on their heritage anymore. They really needed to create a model that still has the character of an old Moto Guzzi, but could compete in the modern times that we're in now. I know we talked about ergonomics before, but we'll mention them again. The ergonomics are absolutely spot on. I mean, for a sport tourer, again, you're at you're not a 3/4 position, you're not an upright position, you're not in a tuck position. You're almost at like a, you know, if 90 straight up, you're at about an 80-degree position, which is a very comfortable position for a sport tourer like this. This is a position that you could ride all day long and never get tired of. I'm dead serious. You could ride this all day long. All right, I tell you what, while we're here, let's talk to my wife. How's about the passenger accommodations, wife?
It was a good fit. The seat is very comfortable. Okay, so
better if there was a backrest.
It definitely would be better if it was a backrest. I mean, it's a really sharp design right here in the back, and there's no backrest right there. But the seat was comfortable. How are the passenger pegs?
They were good.
The grab handles, did you use those, or did you hold on to me?
I held on.
You grabbed onto my handles, not to the grab handles. So everything was good. So passenger accommodations, you give it 2 thumbs up.
Unless you're 5'4" and it's hard to get off.
It is a little hard because, like I said, those passenger pegs do kind of stick up a little bit, so it was kind of difficult to get off. So the power delivery of this engine, it's so incredibly smooth. There's not an RPM that this engine does not work in. If you want to lug it down to 2,000 RPM, it'll do it. If you want to rev this thing up to 6, 7, 8,000 RPM, it'll do it. And it's happy, and it makes power all through the power band, which is an absolute testament to the engineers at Moto Guzzi that have developed this engine. Again, they developed this to compete against these other more modern motorcycles. And I think they absolutely hit it out of the park. This is by far the best engine that Moto Guzzi has ever made, without a doubt. And this is coming from somebody who really loves Moto Guzzi. Again, we're taking it nice and easy. The road's wet, and I don't have much fuel, so I don't want to be pushing this thing the last couple miles going down to the Dills Gap Resort. And I hope they're open, and I hope they have fuel. So let's take a stop here. Let's I tell you what, let's hop off the bike real quick. Let's hop off the bike and let's look, our things go back in there. Our active arrow goes back in. Let's take a look at this motorcycle while we're sitting here on this. Again, we're on the middle of the tail of the dragon, one of the most famous roads in the world, and we're riding this gorgeous. Look at this thing. This thing is just sexy. There's our big radiator in the front. Now, I think Moto Guzzi did a pretty good job of integrating the radiator into the design of the bike. Again, they had never made a liquid cooled bike before, so adding a radiator was something completely different for what they've done. There's our Öhlins electronically controlled forks right there. There's our Brembo brakes and our radially mounted calipers and our radially mounted Brembo master cylinder. There's our new water cooled engine. Now, if you notice, anybody who knows Moto Guzzi is like, hey, that looks a little different. Yeah, they rotated the engine 90 degrees. So before, whereas the exhaust came out on a different side, now the exhaust comes out the side, the intake comes in from the top. They put our alternator here in the back. One cool thing that they did to try to help reduce the side torque of the V-twin engine is they actually have the radio, or the alternator stuck back here. They had the shaft of the alternator turned the opposite direction to help kind of counteract some of those rotational, those twisting forces. So I thought that was kind of cool. But like I said, this engine is a lot more compact. It's 4 inches smaller than their air-cooled 853 engine. And again, I'll show you here on the other side. What that allowed them to do is that allowed them to lengthen the swing arm and lower the pinion angle right here. And again, what that did is that allowed them, it greatly reduced the shaft jack that you get. It just naturally happens in a drive shaft bike. And what happens is that when you get on it, that shaft actually kind of like kicks up, and it really kind of messes up the dynamics of the engine. But this thing is absolutely gorgeous. Look at this thing. My goodness. So I was at a Cars and Coffee event this past weekend, and I had this bike with me. And I mean, all the cool cars and motorcycles, I had more people come up and want to talk about this bike right here than anything else. I mean, look at this thing. This thing is absolutely gorgeous. The single-sided swing arm with that beautiful kind of spider web spoke design there. That beautiful exhaust. It's got a huge catalytic converter, but it's integrated pretty well down there. Man, this thing is gorgeous. Man, this thing is gorgeous. Let's hop back on and keep riding. All right, so who is this bike for? Let's talk about that. Who is if you had to create a demographic for this bike, who's this for? Unlike Moto Guzzis of the past, where Moto Guzzi only really made bikes for Moto Guzzi enthusiasts, okay? Because people loved the longitudinally mounted V-twin. They love the air cool. They love the quirky nature of a Moto Guzzi. This bike kind of breaks out of that mold. This bike is for anybody looking for a sports tour. If you want a beautiful sports tour that when you turn the bike off, you turn around and you look at it again, this is your bike right here. This bike has, it's probably one of the best looking bikes I've ever seen in person. Yet it still performs like a modern motorcycle. Okay, so you got that beautiful Italian design, and it's handmade in Italy, in their factory. Actually, they got a brand new factory that's getting ready to open in Mandello. And, you know, this is where this bike is going to be made. And like I said, this bike is going to carry them into the 21st century. So, again, so who's this bike for? I mean, this bike is made for, obviously it's for Moto Guzzi enthusiasts. But again, it's made for anybody who's looking for a competent sports tour, or who wants a commuter that's not just plain Jane, and something that kind of evokes a little bit of emotion and character when you ride it. And by gosh, this is right here. Or if you want something that's, you know, I want to be different than all my buddies. So all my buddies are riding, you know, FJR 1300s and Kawasaki Concours and BMW, you know, R1200 RSs. I want something that's different than what everybody else is riding. This is your bike right here. But you know what? You can ride something that's different from everybody else, but you're not giving anything up. You're still getting all the power, all the electronics, all the features, all the comfort than all those other bikes, but in a package that is so dadgum cool. So talking about the competition, what is the competition for this bike? So I've already mentioned a couple of them, and I'll kind of go through those. You know, you got your Japanese, your big older Japanese, you know, touring / sports touring bikes. You know, the Kawasaki Concours. That car was there a couple days ago. I wonder what the story with that one is. You know, your Concours, your FJR. Also from Yamaha, you've got like your Tracer 9 GT, which is, you know, it's a really cool triple engine that makes good power, but it's just boring. I mean, it's just a boring ass motorcycle. So again, like I said, if you want something that's competent, yet it will give you that emotion, this is your bike right here. You know, I mentioned from BMW, you got the you know, R1200 RS, which is a really nice bike, but again, just doesn't invoke that emotion. Yeah, look at it. We're already at the bottom of the we're at the bottom of the tail of the dragon. We got to get fuel, guys. I'm telling you, we got to get fuel. I don't think we're gonna make it back. That's hilarious. Speaking of fuel mileage, let's talk about fuel mileage while we're sipping the last vapors out of this tank here. Your fuel range is going to be about 150 miles. This bike will get you about 50 miles per gallon, and it's got about a 4-gallon tank, so that gives you about a 50-mile range. You know, I'll put the exact measurements of the fuel tank in here, but you're looking at about 150 miles of range, which is not great if you want to be honest, but it's not terrible either. I mean, it's not like a Honda Magna where you're stopping every, or you're a Harley Sports Show where you're stopping every 70, 80 miles. But truly, I mean, you could probably push it to 200 miles if you're just doing interstate riding. But with the riding I've been doing, it's a little bit more spirited, and so our mileage has actually been less. So, like I said, it's not the best, but it's also not the worst. So about 150 miles of range. You might stretch it to 200 miles. I don't like how the range estimator, it actually disappears once you get into the reserve, which is like the last 9/10 of a gallon. I'm not crazy about that, how it disappears. Man, I hope these guys are open because I don't think I got enough fuel to get back. Let's see what fuel we got. Premium unleaded, my man, at $4.20. Yee. All right, guys, we got us some fuel. We're going to ride a little bit more spirited on the way back up since the roads are drying out, and we got us dodge some here. Let's change the mode. There's rain mode, sport mode. We're not going to ride in sport mode. Road mode, touring mode. Let's ride in road mode. That's what we'll do there. So, guy with the blower, 30-mile-an-hour winds. That's not going to work out well. So like I said, we're going to ride a little bit more spirited on the way back up. Got the road to ourselves. Actually, I was talking to the lady. Let's get on here. Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. I was talking to the lady that, I'm the first motorcycle she's seen today. So I'll take that as a compliment. We can still turn our heated grips all the way up. Again, I got a heated vest on as well. Yeah, let's go ride it. We're going to ride a little bit more spirited on the way back up today. Again, we're in road mode. Actually, let's try road mode. Actually, we're going to try them all out. So we rode down, we rode down in rain mode, just kind of taking it nice and easy. So we're going to ride up a little more spirited on the ride back up. So let's try touring mode. Touring mode should be a little bit more kind of docile, There's not a huge difference, in my opinion, with the throttle response and the different tour modes, except for rain. Rain really kind of dulls things down, but the other ones really don't change much. Let's try sport mode. Yes, sir. It even turns red. Look at that. Oh, yeah, let's try sport mode. Now, sport mode, I can feel a difference. And again, the roads are really wet. There's that car again. A lot of debris on the road. So we are gonna take it easy. Don't lick the mustard. Hey! Man, this thing will move. For a sports tour, I mean, I'm telling you, this is an awesome package. And this is Moto Guzzi's kind of first foray into the sports touring market. I mean, they've had other bikes that can tour and everything, but this is really their first, let's go back to road. I like road better. Road gives me a little bit more, the throttle's not as jumpy in road. Again, this is kind of their first kind of foray into the sports touring market, and man, I think they absolutely knocked it out of the park. I really do. Yeah, for the conditions today, I think road is a lot more manageable. There's a lot of debris. The throttle's not as jumpy. So I think road is a great mode. All right, so let's talk about the positives. I mean, what are some of the positives of this bike? And we'll talk about the negatives too. Again, like I said, T's not paying me a dime to do these reviews. I say, hey, you give me the access, I'll make the content. So the engine, you got to start with the engine. This is a sweet engine. Moto Guzzi, they managed to make something modern, but still feels classic. That's hard to do right there. That's really hard to do, and they managed to do that. So this engine, we're gonna put this 115 horsepower, longitudinally mounted V-twin. We're gonna put that as our absolute #1 positive. The looks, I mean, this is a sexy motorcycle. This thing looks incredible. This is again, I always talk about bikes that when you hop off and you start to walk away, you turn around and look at it. Would you do that with this motorcycle? Hell yes, you would. And it's, again, like I said, I was at an event and I had people coming up to me and just want to talk about this motorcycle. Man, dude, what is that? I said, it's a Moto Guzzi V100 Mandello S. I'm like, oh man, that's so freaking awesome. The single-sided swing arm. Man, this thing is it's Italian sexiness. It really, really is. Moto Guzzi nailed this. Absolutely nailed it. You would expect something like this from, Ducati or somebody like that, but hell no. This is a Moto Guzzi. The seating position, the ergonomics. The ergonomics are absolutely fantastic. Again, I've been riding this thing all morning. I rode it a whole bunch yesterday, and the seating position it's committed, but it's comfortable. I think that's a really good description. It's committed, but it's very comfortable. You don't have any room to move around because of how the passenger seat kind of locks you in. But speaking of seating, as a matter of fact, so there's 3 different seats that you can get with this motorcycle. This is the standard. There's a low model, which takes it down to like 31.5 inches, and then there's a high seat, which is like 32.9. And what that'll do, the high seat, in my opinion, what the high seat would do is that would give you more room in your legs. Again, you are kind of cramped with your legs and your feet kind of in a not a tucked position, but not a relaxed position. You're not gonna mistake this for a BMW GS. But I would personally get the high seat, and that would give you about at least another almost an inch of additional hip and leg room. And again, I just turned 45, so the hips and the knees, and anybody older than me, or anybody younger too, to tell you the truth, you would really benefit from having that additional leg room without taking away from your your ground clearance with your foot pegs and everything. So ergos are definitely a positive for me. All right, and our final positive is going to be, you know what, a positive, it's not about the bike, it's about Moto Guzzi. You know, I want to commend them for making a truly, it's slick right there, for making a true modern motorcycle while still sticking to their guns. So you know what, we're Moto Guzzi. This is what we do. Actually, I was thinking about it, and a comparison. And the longitudinally mounted V-twin. This is their jam. This is what they do. It kind of reminds me of BMW with their Boxer, or Porsche with their Flat 6. That's what they got their name on, and they haven't abandoned what made them famous. Look at these leaves. Look at this leaves color. They haven't abandoned what has made them known for what they are. But what all three of these companies have done, BMW has absolutely refined the absolute snot out of the Boxer Twin. Porsche has made an absolute art and science out of the Flat 6. And Moto Guzzi now, with this modern 1042cc, has taken the longitudinally mounted V-twin and taken it to its, I don't think they've hit the zenith or the apex of what they could do with this engine here. I think this is just a start. I'm so excited to see what Moto Guzzi can do with this engine right here. So all three of these companies say, you know what? No, we're sticking to our guns. This is what we're known for. This is what we're going to do. And again, I commend Moto Guzzi for doing that. Now again, this bike's not perfect, okay? So let's talk about some of the negatives. The first negative is the quick shifter. The quick shifter is definitely a little clunky. It's not as, just now I just went from second to third, and the quick shifter is definitely a bit clunky. It's not the greatest quick shifter or the smoothest that I've ever felt, but it works. It works, but it's nothing famous, okay? Again, we talked about the foot peg position. The foot pegs sit a little high, and so that's a bit of a negative for all day comfort. But I really think you could remedy that with the tall seat and take care of that. The position of the side stand. The side stand, how the position is not back behind the peg like what most bikes are. It's kind of right underneath the peg and right there at the shifter. So it's one of those where it's if you can see it, it's a little hard to get to deploy, but again, nothing crazy there. You could put price. If you want to put price in the negative category, it is definitely a premiumly priced motorcycle. But again, they're not making motorcycles in Thailand or anywhere else or in India. These are still made. Moto Guzzi just built a brand new factory in Mandello over by the lake, and they have made a commitment to producing motorcycles, Italian motorcycles in Italy by Italians. So there's a price premium to pay to have something like that. Yeah, we're definitely riding this a little bit more spirited pace. Still not riding stupid. This engine is just so torquey. Again, it's a negative, but it's kind of not. Let's talk about the horsepower. Again, this bike makes 115 horsepower, which is, more than adequate. Does it make as much as the competition? No, it does not. A lot of these other bikes in this category, they weigh less and they make more horsepower. So if you're looking for the absolute king of the road as far as highest horsepower and best performance, this is not it. But they're not trying to do that either. Moto Guzzi's making what Moto Guzzi wants to make. And actually, you know what? I was thinking about that, and I actually wrote that down to compare it to my new CF Moto Ibex 450. You're like, Alan, what does a $17,000 Italian sports tour have to do with a $6,000 Chinese dual sport bike? Well, nothing. But that's the point. CF Moto with that Ibex 450, every piece of that motorcycle was designed and developed what it seems like in a test market. They brought in all kinds of folks. It was a bike designed by committee, and I don't necessarily say that as a bad thing, but it's like they thought of every single little detail. I mean, there's a place to like hang your chain, and then there's, you know, how you turn off ABS, and just there's so many little thoughtful things for the consumer. Moto Guzzi doesn't do that. What Moto Guzzi does is they say, you know what, we're going to build what we want to build. We're not going to build what you want us to build. We're going to build what we want to build, and this is the V100 Mandello. That's what we want to build. We want to put our passions into a bike. We're not building it for you. You come to us because you want to buy what we build. We're not going to build what you want us to build, if that makes sense. And again, you could look at it as a bit of an arrogant way to do it, but you know what? That's what they do. That's how they've made their name. You don't build a motorcycle like the Jackal, you know, back in the 90s because that's what the test markets say they wanted. You build that because that's what you want to make, you know. So that I think that's really cool about Moto Guzzi. And if you know what, if what they make is something that you want, go buy you one. Go see T over T's Eurocycle. See a little plug there? That was pretty good. The weight. I mean, let's talk about the weight. I mean, she's not a lightweight girl. I mean, this bike is 514, 515 pounds. I'll put the exact weight up here on the screen. It's not a light motorcycle, and it does feel a bit top heavy too. When you take this bike off the side stand, I mean, you feel it. You know you're picking up. Let's get a little beans here. You know you're picking up something that's a little bit heavy. So, you know, despite having, you know, the most compact and a lightweight engine compared to other Moto Guzzis, this is still a pretty heavy bike. All right, so let's we're getting near the overlook, so let's wrap this review up. So the question is, the question I asked at the beginning is, does all this technology and refinement, does it still have the essence of what a Moto Guzzi is? And I think my answer is absolutely. Abso-freaking-lutely it does. Moto Guzzi has managed to make a motorcycle that will compete against an R1200 RS, a Tracer 9 GT, you know, any of these modern, you know, quote-unquote sports touring motorcycles. They've made that. Yet they've made an engine. Listen to this engine here. They've made an engine that still is still true to what a Moto Guzzi is. It's still this famous longitudinally mounted V-twin. It still rocks and shakes when you crank it up or when you rev it sitting at a red light. The cylinder heads still stick out the sides. They've made this thing still has the essence of what a Moto Guzzi is. They have made an absolutely incredible motorcycle, and I'm so lucky that I had a chance to ride this on one of the most famous roads in the world. So I'm gonna stop talking for a bit, and I'm gonna let you enjoy the tail of the dragon on this gorgeous Moto Guzzi V100 Mandello S.
right, guys, so that's going to wrap up our comprehensive review of this gorgeous 2025 Moto Guzzi V100 Mandello S. Now, I asked the question at the beginning of this video, does this technology and refinement, does this take away from what a Moto Guzzi is? And the answer is absolutely not. Not only is this a quintessential Moto Guzzi, this is the absolute best motor that Moto Guzzi has ever made, and this is one of the best sport tours on the market today. And if this is something that you're interested in, this place behind me, thie Cycles on Freedom Drive in Charlotte, North Carolina, this is the only place in North and South Carolina that you can get a Moto Guzzi or an Aprilia or a Vespa and the new bikes. And then look behind me, look at all these used bikes behind me. I see Aprilias and Ducatis and Triumphs and BMWs and any Euro used bike you could think of, it's right here behind me. And then right next door is Team Charlotte Motorsports. They carry everything, Honda, Yamaha, Suzuki, Kawasaki, and the new bikes. They carry ATVs and UTVs and personal watercraft. This is truly your one-stop spot for anything motorsports in the Charlotte market. And they do flying rides and they do all that cool stuff. So again, I got to thank these guys. They let me take this motorcycle. I've had it for a week now. They didn't give me any restrictions on where to take it, on what to do, on what to say about this bike. So I really got to thank these guys behind me. So if you see anything that you like, please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Thank you guys for watching. God bless, roll tide, and remember, tomorrow needs you. Thanks, guys.